To understand the body as you do, to sculpt it like Michelangelo as some people say you do, what method or path did you follow? How did a normal, ordinary-looking person like you actually understand the complex workings of the human body?
There are cognizable things and non-cognizable things in all human beings. One advantage is man has been given the power of intelligence, which the other creatures haven't got it. So this intellectual quality which has been given to us as a gift of God, it has a discriminative power. And as it has got that discriminative power, it can analyze, it can go to the depth of the cause of reactions, and therefore the practice of yoga takes us to the inner body and inner mind, which I don't think you will get in any growth of science. Because what is cognizable has been explained.
What about art and music?
To some extent, the yoga is also an art, though it has got a science. Even music is an art, music has a science. Sculpture is an art, it has a science. So artistic side is different, scientific side is different. The difference is art is an experiential subject. Science is an experimental subject. So they can experiment what is cognizable. But an artist goes beyond the cognizable state. And that's why this intelligence has to do with the element of air. There's a connection between intelligence and air. Because these 5 elements have got a tremendous bearing. And the other one is the element of ether. The element of ether is space. It may contract, it may expand. Thus, this extension and expansion of the inner body, which is not the element of earth, not the element of air, and not the element of water or fire, because these 3 are cognizable. That is why you will find these 3 subjects: the skeletal body, the physiological body, organic body, and the vital body, which is also an organic body, or we call it pranamana sharira, then mind. Up to now, up to this, the science has experimented a great deal and surveyed and presented us. But the other 2 aspects.
I'll just interrupt you here before you talk of the higher levels. You say yoga have experimented a great deal. Would you say it has experimented the most, perhaps?
This is the only subjective one. Music is not subjective. See, the man who plays, there are 2 types. When he practices himself, an artist, a musician, I say he is completely divine. But when he comes to a platform, because that's his profession, I have not seen a singer singing for himself. He has to make a living. I have also done yoga as an artist, and I have to also make a living. But my way of living is for existence only, in order to push yoga. For them it is to get
the existence.
The other,
for them it is
yes, they have to go beyond. They have to make money, they have to make fame, name. In yoga it's very difficult to get name, fame or money. So there is a handicap in this art. So when they come to the platform, the ego comes. That I have to play very well to conquer these people. But in yoga, it's a very difficult subject. It's subjective. When I am doing, for example, Vushchikasana, the scorpion pose, do you mean to say it is going to attract the public for clapping that it is something? It doesn't. But the person who does experiences the intelligence flowing, in which direction it is flowing in the body, where the space is created, where the space is contracted. So these are the two other subtle elements and their qualities. He studies in asanas, whereas in music, except the vibration of the sound,
That moment, there is no greater reward.
there is nothing. But here it's not like that, whether you practice or you don't practice. That sensitivity of intelligence, which has been built up by certain discipline, and through that discipline, he brings out on himself and on those who want to learn the subject, he wants to imprint that there is something beyond, so that the infinite is touched. Because the element of ether is, though it is very subtle, it is infinite. The sky cannot be touched, though it is a blue in color. It's open. As there is an open place outside, there is also an empty place in each body. So that's why the yogi interpenetrates, interviews his senses of perception, action, mind, intelligence, to interpenetrate, to trace that space from which everything sprouts. And that is the difference.
Would I say that this answers my question? How did you understand the human body?
Now I'll tell you, probably you have seen that there are about nearly 600 photographs here. A single man doing. When I am doing, how much my intelligence has penetrated in various positioning of the body. As I said, it's an experiential subject. If I am doing Trikonasana, if I do on the right side, the right lung is empty, the left lung is full. But when I do on the other side, it takes a reverse motion, reverse action. Then as an intelligent person, I have to study why this took place. Was I empty on that side when I did on the right side? The right side was empty, left side was full. When I did on the left side was empty, right side was full. Studying this, I have to understand and practice again that without losing that emptiness, what the fullness I feel on the left side while I am doing on the right side, can I bring that same sense of fullness where there is emptiness? So how much attention is to be given?
So the mind has to be alert.
Yes. So mind has to be totally, has to observe.
So this is the reason for the intelligence to be alert.
And intelligence is in the dark cave. And the moment your skin, you can see only the skin and the ribs by feel. But beyond that, it's just like a cave. The body is like caves. So the moment you enter in one cave after the other, you need lot of strong lights. In the beginning you may not need those lights, but later you need strong lights in order to see what this black area contains. So naturally the intelligence has to have a beacon of light to penetrate inside the body, and this is what these various asanas have taught me. For example, you said about Michelangelo. He had the perception. He did a wonderful work. But if you observe, there are some abnormalities in the presentations too. So, knowing that here is a great artist who did with his imagination, where certain muscles are overshown beyond the structure of a human frame. So the yogi says that as Michelangelo filled the external body to such an extent to show the grace, the power. So the yogi said, can I use the same power and express without exhibitionism? So the internal power, the internal strength, the internal build-up, the yogi has taken. So he completes the picture of Michelangelo by attending to the external one and the internal one in a real life.
Are you also a believer that if you understand yourself, others will understand?
Yes, yoga is a subjective art and subjective science, subjective philosophy. Art is called kala, science is called vijnana, and philosophy is called prajnana. Means coming from subjective inner voice, from the inner feelings. And yoga trains the body, the mind, the intelligence, the consciousness and the core to such an extent that it is as clean as a reflecting mirror. And all these human-made vehicles, man-made vehicles, reflect in a clear, crystal clear state without any refractions. And that's the beauty of yoga, that reflection is without refractions. But in science, there may be reflections, may not be true today, which they may have to change. So reflections are there. But in this subject, when once you go on continuing discipline, when you reach that state, the stability, I don't think there is possible to any change. That's why Patanjali speaks of 4 dimensions of intelligence. One is, which is also needed for an artist, direct perception, imagination, or depending on the traditional texts, whether it is music, whether it is science, whether it is philosophy or whatever it may be, to go to the original books to find out what insight they had thrown.
And you did that?
No, I'm coming. So yoga also needs all these things in the beginning. The direct perception is the misconceptions to many people, because this may be from the gates of knowledge, the sense of perception, eye, ears, nose, tongue, and so on and so forth. It may be by the mind, and mind is also not stable. So the knowledge which goes from the mind may appear stable, but one may think, I'm wrong, I think I should do the other way. That's why there is an intelligence which flushes the mind in order to know whether the reflection is going to be permanent.
Can I clarify that for myself? The mind, you are saying, has 2 sides to it. And what you are saying is yoga brings about some cohesion. It helps it.
Then they have to study through the text what feeling I have got. Has it been felt by others? So you go on comparing your subjective experiences through inference or through books or through perceptions. Then the 4th dimension is most important, where Patanjali says, and which is my experiences, because as you asked me the question, it comes to that only, He says, by the intense practice of any leaf of yoga, the fourth dimension of intelligence, known as Rutambara Tatra Prajna. The Rutambara means truth bearing, which is eternal, which cannot be changed. So that is the fourth dimension of intelligence, which the yogic practitioner reaches that state. And when that state he reaches, there is no oscillation at all. And when non-oscillation of intelligence takes place, then creativity begins from then on, because it does not depend on inferences, it does not depend upon direct actions, perceptions, or referring to the books. Because this special knowledge makes him to study deeper and deeper, and the intuitive knowledge comes from within, from the core, through which he builds up. And that's why we can penetrate from the core, or you can penetrate using the various sheets of the man to reach the core. And when that state is reached, then from the core he practices, not by fragmenting the man's sheets into various angles. I should do from my leg, I should do. So he looks, in the beginning he has to fragment, because he cannot, the intelligence cannot go at one stretch to each and every part. But when he masters, when this knowledge comes, this seasoned intelligence, which does not oscillate at all, when that sets in him, then whatever process he does, he has to see, like the water when it reaches the sea, the river, when it goes near the sea, it spreads very wide. So his intelligence spreads very wide in his body, not just we think intelligence may be vertical, but in yoga it has got the other dimension where it spreads wider and wider and engulfs the entire body before it comes as the river joins the sea. Here he is one with the core because of the width he creates. That is why I said the element of ether plays a great role in the practice of asanas and pranayama. And that he explains also in the third chapter, that each one has got, the body has its own character, mind has its own character, intelligence has its own character. The yogi gave practices to change these characters into a qualitative characters. He gives a new color, new dimension through yoga. And through these dimensions, he reaches a stable state, which I said before, Sthirasukam Asana. It's easy to explain, but this nobody understands. That the character of the body, character of the mind, character of the intelligence are so different to each other. He cultivates and gives a color, qualitatively a new color, and develops a steadiness, stability in all these sheets of the man. And he tries to maintain that so that the stability may not fade at all.
How do you convey all this to so many of your students, because you have to actually interact with many thousands at a time? It is not with one or two persons amongst family or friends.
It's good. It's true that the intelligence is not the same in all individuals. They differ. And some have the gross intelligence, some have the subtle intelligence, some must be having the subtlest and finest of intelligence. Fortunately, God gave me this chance to meet the gross intellectuals as well as the subtlest intellectuals. So I could learn.
There was a comparison between the best and the others.
So I could learn by meeting these people. Then even it gave me a thought that a gross intellectual man may be a gross, but he does not know what to see, what not to see, what to feel, what not to feel. But a subtlest of the subtle, subtlest of the subtlest, like Krishnamurti and others to whom I taught. Even subjectively, I have noticed that they could not find the weaknesses in their own bodies, in their own minds.
They could not hear their bodies.
They could not hear their bodies. So naturally, I thought that how yoga is a subject which it touches to everyone by this what I call filtering of the intelligence moment to moment. So this filtering of the intelligence, the gross intelligence to be filtered. So we got gross intellectuals when they come, we give them mild instructions, what they can cognize, what they can understand. So from that, then we go to the subtle explanations or the subtle explanations. When they reach their subtle level, then we go to the subtlest explanations. If what I taught like Jayaprakash Narayan or Minion or Krishnamurti, I cannot teach the ordinary people because they are already trained, disciplined. They have disciplined their body, they have disciplined their minds, their senses and all. So the approach has to vary because from which level I have to teach them is quite different to the level of the gross who come, because they have seen what a gross person has not seen. So naturally we have to tackle or tap them from that area so that to say that yoga can still open the gates for intelligence to further penetrate.
You have not met anybody equal to you.
Unfortunately, I have not come across even one person who has attempted, even though they call it physical exercises, but they do not understand that I am using their body as an instrument to sharpen the intelligence. That nobody understands. As I said, unfortunately, I had not even one colleague who worked like me. And naturally there is no room or avenue for me to exchange my views with others to find out whether what I am getting others are getting or not. They are only satisfied with the mechanical presentation of their poses. But whereas in my mind, I wanted to electrify each and every part of my body in that pose, whatever the pose may be, that not one part should be neglected. And I didn't get anyone. So there is a setback in my case.
Would you say that is the sorrow of your life?
Well, I had to accept it. But today I say that I have trained thousands and thousands of students. There is a hope in the future for comparative study, so that by communicating with each other, by talking to each other, by doing face to face, probably a new light may dawn, which the science may prove later that a new knowledge through yoga has thrown out by so many students' practices, which is almost identical. And if that comes, I think I've done a very good work.
So tell me, as a yoga teacher, what do you gain out of your teaching? What do you expect from your teaching?
I think a teacher, if he is ambitious, he cannot be a teacher. So if a teacher tries to expect something to get from the student so and so, then the teacher is partial. So the mind is also compartmental. Here we have to try, as I said before, whether the highly qualified intelligent man or a dull person, what weaknesses the highly intellectual person has, if I expose and present it to a common man, the common man understands that when such intellectuals cannot understand, probably it may take time for us to understand. So in this way, a healthy education sets in. And when I show those weaknesses, they are happy in one way that when such intellectuals cannot penetrate, we have to wait. And in that waiting, we can put them to practice more so that their penetration is made little deeper to see. So from that one can develop automatically that equanimity can be brought later. And when the aim of yoga is samatvam yoga uchyate, equanimity not only in oneself but in the human race. So naturally I am trying this so that what I have achieved. But as I said, there is no comparative comparison because I could not have comparative studies with others. As my pupils are coming together, due to their comparative studies, the equanimity, unanimity will come, and there is a very good and healthy understanding of friendliness and compassion comes in each is needed.
You are talking about the present day students. How do you think they compare with the students of the past, of say 50 years ago?
As I see, today a child, even a newborn child, within few months, what intelligence that child has, we never had in our childhood. So there is an intellectual evolution that has taken place. So the new generation are definitely intellectuals compared to our period of childhood. Because we were all restricted. There was no freedom for us. Our parents used to say, you have to come before sunset. And if we have to see someone, we have to give them the exact location, place, whom we meet. Today there is a freedom for everybody. So there is a...
How do you see a difference between your grandparents and your grandson?
They are all free people. They have so much freedom. And one is freedom, and secondly, inquisitiveness. See, the inquisitiveness has increased in the younger generation. But in our time, there was no avenue to develop the inquisitiveness in us. Like keeping a prisoner in the four walls. Our parents had kept us within their four walls of their mental frame. Present day children, the parents have given them freedom. So the avenue is open. As I said before, these five gates, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, is so sensitive. They are called gyanendriyas. They say senses of perceptions. So they are the gateways of knowledge. We were asked to close those doors because we were in their frame of mind. But today, we don't keep our children in our frame of mind. So we have given them little freedom. That has created inquisitiveness. So this inquisitiveness in them gives a thought for them to know each and everything as far as possible and as quick as possible.
So you see a great deal of hope.
So there is a sensitivity in them. Intellectual sensitivity is there. As you said that my grandson was playing. So that means intellectual sensitivity has evolved in them, and only we have to tap them in such a way that that intelligence is not made to flow in wrong directions, that's all. Because intellectual intoxication is there. Any person who is intellectual, he is intoxicated to some extent. A drunkard is intoxicated to drugs. A psychedelic patient takes injections and then he is in high spirit.
Now I'll come down to earth. I'm going with Father Joe to his center. He was saying how the patients, the addicts of alcohol and substance abuse, have incredibly high intelligence level. How you have developed yoga to help them.
You know, no doubt, as I already said, that yoga is a philosophical subject. How many people in this world are interested in philosophy? Honestly, factually, this is what we have to think. We don't give, because there are so many yoga centers in the world. Speaking of samadhi, I can take you to samadhi, I can take you to this. But normal individual, in what is he interested in life? So unless and until we come to that level and understand the psychology of the majority of the human race, and then if we cannot lift them from their environments, which are like a web, caught in the web. So unless we remove that web, how can we take them to spiritual leap? How can we tell them to take the zenith of yoga, samadhi, this, or equanimity of the intelligence, or oneness in intelligence, universality of human being? It's all utopian words. But how to bring this to millions and millions of people? And that's what I said. From my point, I've touched a common average individuals more than these utopian people. That's why my yoga has become very popular, because the needs of the people, if I satisfy their needs and bring them out from their pits, like snake pits. So mind has got its own pit. It forms different pits. So how to bring them from the pits so that they can see freedom, light a little more. So if we can do that so much, and that's what I did it, that I, who suffered from various illnesses, who had absolutely no education, who had no guide from anyone, but environments, circumstances made me to build up a character in me. If I could do that, do you mean to say when lots of ordinary people who have got those facilities, could they not improve far better than what they are in the present state? So from that angle only I am very particular to take yoga. I am not very keen that everybody should become a philosopher. It's impossible.
But this is possible.
This
Yoga
is possible. Yes. Okay, give them a little light so that they discriminate and choose what is right, what is wrong. So let them take the right path. Beyond that, I have no other interest in life, in the art of teaching.
Yoga has another dimension to it. Say for a person like Parvez, can you tell us about healing people, attending to the disabled, or giving them some relief?
Healing is an art. Science is a technique. Today the market is flooded with drugs, with various pills. Do you mean to say health can be purchased through pills, by swallowing pills? Or health has to be sweated? If a river water, we can drink a flowing river water. Would you like to drink a lake water? Why? Why you don't drink? It's stale. But whereas the running water is fresh. So naturally there is an electricity flowing in the running water. So it gets cleansed by itself. So health is like that. Health cannot be easily defined, though it can be said that the human system, digestive system, circulatory system, respiratory system, excretory system, generative system should be healthy. Hormones releasing, the glands releasing the hormones, glandular system, if they are all healthy, he is called healthy. But health has got three qualities. And I think science of yoga, Indian philosophers are really better thinkers. Even health may be tamasic, health may be rajasic, health may be sattvic. Just using the word health has no meaning at all. It may be a dragging health, or it may be a vibrant health where you are seeing on Sunday, as you said, that type of health where they become victims of various psychological upheavals. Then you see this equanimity, tranquility, serenity in the physical body, in the cellular system, in the organic system, in the mental system, in the intellectual system. So this we have to study. This is real health, I consider. Where the serenity from the skin to the core and from the core to the skin, each and every cell should be ringing with a bell that I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy. I consider that as a sattvic pure illuminative health. And that yoga gives.
That yoga promises.
That's why we struggle to make them to develop that illuminative health.
Tell me, what is the next level of achievement in your life? What is the next higher plane which you are aiming for? What is the passion of your life?
My guru was a very strict master. I'm only coming very close because in olden days, the gurus were testing pupils. Who is fit, who is unfit. We call patra and apatra. Sometimes they were not getting patra students at all, ripe students, so the art died with them. Many could not part their knowledge, mentioning that you are all unfit. And as I said, my guru was very strict. Even my guru never told me one day that you are a student of yoga. He told me that you are unfit to practice yoga. And that was the challenge I took it. I said, I will prove that one day that I say that I am going to be a fit student of yoga. And that's why he did not teach me, knowing very well that I was unfit. This quality, I don't want to speak about others also. There are two types of philosophers whom I have met, who live according to what they say, who say one thing and live differently. They're all intellectual giants of the world. By chance, I said I have met, and I have learned from them also. Then I said, whether one is ripe or unripe, it does not matter to me. What little I gain, I should part with one and all, irrespective of differences in their intellectual caliber. And I have done it. If I had not done it, today millions and millions of people would not have taken to my practice. There are other yoga places, let them count whether they have got a million students. But here I say, I have got millions and millions. And not only that, it's going on in their generations, whether it is India or you take in the West. Those people who did in 1970s, who were my students, 1950s who were my students, their children and grandchildren are still practicing yoga. I never taught them, but it flew in them. So that is why I say that my yoga have moved like a gigantic Ganges river in their systems. And when this knowledge flew to the third generation, fourth generation, they come closer and closer. As they come closer and closer, emotional intelligence develops in them, not a competitive intelligence. Though people may not understand, but a little later, how a yoga students of mine have developed a humane approach, not a competitive technical approach. And from that angle, I say why I have given, not measuring myself as my guru measured, saying that you are ripe, you are unripe. Sometimes they get the unripe student and they say he's a fit student, but afterwards we see they don't even continue, they leave. So I made up my mind, from the very day I started teaching yoga, I should not show this differentiation at all, whether one is intelligence or unintelligence. Let me take yoga to one and all. And that's how it became very, very popular. And though I am saying this, don't think in my heart of heart that some of the students who are better than many unrights may develop this character of maintaining their superiority complex in them. That is there in me. And in the 80th birthday, I tried to break that to a great extent. I have taken I invited students to participate, a raw beginner and a right practitioner. But I put them all together, so I showed the way. Probably in the next Silver Jubilee function also, I am trying to bring again unity in the way of techniques, so that they could give the technique according to the growth without disturbing their mental caliber, and how to make them humble to reach what they have not even seen.
Is that why you're quite harsh with some of your experienced instructors?
Because it's my life, and at the age of 80, I have no passion. If you had asked me in the early days, yoga was unknown, and I had the Kshatriya Dharma, like a martial type, that I will make this yoga to become popular. And that passion I have fulfilled. So I do, as I said, I do poses, as you asked me in the first question, to see what is not still experienced, whether it surfaces or not. That's my passion. To see in the same poses what has been known to me, has something covered which has still not surfaced to me. So can I surface them? I think to some extent my pupils will tell you that I bring lots of new things when I stay in those poses, what comes later. And I practice even all these things because I am not saying like other yogis that I am doing for liberation. Liberation may come or may not come. It's in the hands of God. So if God considers that I am unworthy, I have to take birth. So if I take birth, from where should I start? Should I start from the scratch? So I practice so that my consciousness may hold on to these good impressions of my practice, so that if God grants me my next life, I start with the subtlest of yoga, because I have taught millions and millions of people. As everybody wants to be a better intelligent man. In all fields, if he is a cameraman, he wants to be a better cameraman. That means the instinct in each individual is to be better than what he is or what she is.
When you say next life, do you mean by perpetuating yoga?
Everybody wants to be better than what? So I want to be better than what I am in the next life. And I have taught so many people, there is a progress in them. So I may become a guide to them again, so that they can learn what is not taught in this life. This is all my passion in this life. No other ambition.
I want to ask you one more thing about our presence, for example, about media, about promoters of yoga.
No, that's a different matter. You know.
How do you feel about it?
Well, as I told you before, I had that Kshatriya Dharma in me, martial type. So, martial type is a superiority fight, to fight for superiority. I think I did for years together. I don't think that you will find another yogi in the world who has faced the camera as I have faced. I think I was even called, that he is like a film actor in the field of yoga. So if Mr. Iyengar is there, people will certainly come. If there is no Iyengar, you can't take the conference as a success. So such impression I had created that Iyengar means star is coming. So star, they call film star. For me they used to tell yoga star. Yoga star is coming. So this way I built up. And that was needed. Now I am isolating myself voluntarily. I think it's a natural growth. The natural growth, according to our Indian way of, is of the 4 ashramas. brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha and sannyas. I think natural tendency is there for me. I need not change dress to say that I am a sannyasi. But my mind is taking that step of renunciation. It's a natural one, as it naturally doesn't, I don't feel. So it's a natural growth. And this has made me to be voluntarily to cut off from everyone. But I'm not negative in my life, even now. Though I don't mix with people, I'm fully alert, fully active, and I live in the present. And having given this background, that the mind says that you have appeared in public a great deal. And this also grew gradually, not suddenly. It took me more than 25, 30 years for the people to know or realize that my practice is genuine. As it took so long time. And I had to exhibit. I don't think there is any yogi in the world. Again, I'm using that word. It's not pride, but it's a fact. So fact cannot be called as pride. Pride is when you cannot do it and then boasting. I have given 10 to 12,000 public appearances, solo, 3 hours program like an artist, without intervals. And keeping thousands of people in spellbound silence by a dry subject of yoga is not an easy thing. I learned how to present, in which angle if I present these poses, it will be attractive to people. That's another side of the subject. So having given so many demonstrations, which I say is a direct knowledge to the viewers. And that is the reason why they took to yoga more. Because others only write books, and by book one but here they could see a man doing it, so they were attracted. And I carried. And naturally, that zeal has faded or is fading further and further. So I have to be grateful to you people now. Because as I am isolated, I was giving performances 2, 3 a day, sometimes even 4 I have given, at stretch, 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours like that. So I was in the public. But today, I am voluntarily isolating from the public. What you are doing, I say, is a creditable thing. And I think this is the only way now I can present myself, because people do not know, and you may say that it was, collected in such and such a year. So there ends the matter. But the fire of yoga, if it has to be burned in the hearts of the people like you only can do that, as I withdraw. So I am grateful to you for doing this job.
Thank you.